Okay, welcome everybody to this afternoon's session on Vision Impaired and Working, the second in our webinars, part of the Unlock Your World series from Quantum. So this afternoon we've got a number of presenters. So first of all, we have Camille from JobAccess, and she's going to be talking about their services, including getting access to funding, assisting employers and employees with a disability in order to access help in the workplace. We're also going to have Greg Madson from Vision Australia talking about his experiences working remotely. And then we'll have Lauren Farrell, who's from Indigo, formerly known as Independent Living Centre WA, and they're an assistive technology information hub. So she'll be telling us all about their services. And finally, we've got Rob Drummond from here at Quantum, who will be giving you a bit of an overview of some of the technology that might suit those of you that are vision impaired and in the workplace. So without further ado, I shall hand over to Rob.
Thanks, Beck. Your sound's sort of jumping in and out as well, so I'm not sure what's happening. But anyway, welcome everyone, and thanks for spending some time with us this afternoon. We've got a good variety of presenters for this session, and the reason I wanted to tackle this subject is that I've never ceased to be amazed at the number of people that are in the workplace that don't know that people like JobAccess exist. They've maybe had a vision impairment that's been stable all their life, and they've just bumbled their way through with their own strategies and a few devices, but they don't necessarily know that they can get their hands on a lot wider range of equipment. And JobAccess and Vision Australia and other people are there to enable them to find out what is available, and so that they can become a lot more efficient in the workplace. And basically, the way I look at things in terms of two parts of our business, if you like, is in education and also in workplace, and it's all to do with efficiency. It's a competitive world out there, particularly in education. You've got to be able to keep up with what's going on in any course. It's exactly the same in the workplace. It's competitive, and it doesn't matter whether you've got a disability or not. You've got a job to do. You've got to perform to the best that you possibly can, and having all of the tools at hand and provided to you is certainly paramount to your success. It's also very important for furthering your opportunities. So rather than just being tied to one particular job, more skills that you can take on and develop over time means that you've got a lot greater scope to broaden your own horizons. Better job, better pay, better lifestyle, etc. So that's what this is all about. It's about giving everybody a lot more in-depth information about products and services that are out there. Now, you are probably aware that Trevor and I were supposed to be enjoying Perth at this stage, but somebody threw a bit of a curveball at us and unable to do so. That's why we're doing these webinars. So all of our presenters are from WA, and some of the things that they will be talking about are obviously biased towards what those people do within the WA environment. But the session that Lauren's going to present, Camille from JobAccess is going to present to us is obviously pertinent to everyone around Australia, just in case we've got a few eavesdroppers that aren't WA based. So what I'll do is just let you know that when Trevor and I get to our part of the session, we're not going to show absolutely everything that we've got. We don't have that length of time, so we're just going to perhaps show you a few of the newer products, maybe things that you've not seen before. At Quantum, we're still continuing on business as usual as much as we possibly can in terms of bringing in new devices. We're always going to do that. We've always done it. We're going to continue to do that even through this little blip on our workflow at the moment, and hopefully you'll be able to get to see those in person at some stage. So once all this virus bit's over, we do plan to get over to Perth and do the full event as we had originally planned. I'll just mention too that if you would like either a presentation of any of these devices, a little one-on-one session by webinar, we're able to do that for you, just in the same way we're doing it here. But instead of several dozen people, we can just make it one-on-one, or we can just do it one with a group or whatever. So without further ado, I think I'll hand over to Camille, but just a shout out to Olga and Beck, who've been working in the background here at Quantum to make this happen, particularly Beck. She might have sounded a little bit bubbly there, but I'm in the office here in Sydney. Trevor's in his shed in down in Melbourne. Beck's at home in the suburbs of Sydney. And the other presenters are all in different places, and isn't Zoom meeting great? And you should have bought some shares about 2 weeks ago. It's a little bit too late for that one. Anyway, without further ado, once again, thanks everybody, and we'll hand over now to Camille Greenwell from JobAccess. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. And I'm just trying to share my computer.
Perfect.
That's perfect. You can see?
Yes.
I can't, but
wonderful.
That's not a problem.
Okay. Okay. All right. So good afternoon, and thank you to Quantum for inviting JobAccess to deliver this webinar. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. I also pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. My name's Camille Greenwell, and I am the Client Support Manager of JobAccess Advisory Services, which includes the Employment Assistance Fund, from yesterday. So just taken over that role from Heather Hill, who some of you might actually know. Improving accessibility can help remove barriers and provide equitable opportunities for people with disability, whether in education, employment, or engaging in the community. Today, I'll talk about some simple adjustments at work to enable employers to become more inclusive and empower job seekers or employees to be gainfully employed and more productive. So today we will discuss a range of topics related to adjustments in the workplace. We'll start by understanding what workplace adjustments are and looking at examples to improve accessibility in an organisation. We'll talk about funding available through the Australian Government's Employment Assistance Fund, or EAF, and then look at steps to apply for the EAF. Finally, we'll talk about other supports available through JobAccess through employers, employees and job seekers. And then I understand that there's going to be some opportunity to ask questions at the end. So looking at workplace adjustments, most of you may know what workplace adjustments are. However, for the benefit of everyone participating in today's discussion, let me start by defining the term. Workplace adjustments, also known as reasonable adjustments, are any changes, either administrative, environmental or procedural, that helps enable people with disability to have equitable employment opportunity and work effectively and comfortably. It's important to understand that not all people with disability require workplace adjustments. Also, many times employers assume that it will be expensive to make adjustments to their offices or workspaces or work equipment so that they can employ people with disability. The fact is, the majority of workplace adjustments are low cost, and some changes, such as providing flexible working hours, involve no cost at all. So just having a quick look at this slide and looking at the numbers, 1 in 5 Australians live with disability. More than 3 in 10 have accessibility requirements, and 2.1 million Australians of working age between 15 and 64 have a disability. So that's a huge proportion of the Australian society, and gives us more reason why we'd be looking at this. Making adjustments in the workplace has clear and wide-ranging business benefits. It can help increase the work performance of employees with disability by providing the right tools to do the job. Increase retention of productive and committed staff who might acquire disability during their employment. Increase staff capabilities, as some adjustments can enable employees to perform tasks that they were unable to before the changes were put in place. Increase access to buildings and rooms by other people and customers, potentially broadening your customer base to include people with disability, and become part of your everyday work practices for all employees by integrating workplace adjustments into the businesses rather than it being an afterthought. Workplace adjustments can be made in the physical environment or workplace practices or policies to help improve accessibility and inclusion. A physical adjustment refers to any change made to the structure, surrounds, furniture or fittings within a workplace to remove barriers and improve access for people with disability. This can include assistive technology or changes such as purchasing an ergonomic chair or sit-stand desk. The recruitment process can include making all recruitment materials, such as position descriptions, application forms or questionnaires, available in accessible or alternative formats. Removing medical tests or aptitude tests that are unrelated to the essential job requirements. Providing alternative to written tests, or organising an interview in an accessible venue. The job design process can involve employers thinking about how they can incorporate workplace adjustments to suit candidates and employees with disability. This can include flexible working hours, job sharing, job carving, and customised employment. And training and development can include extending the training time or probation for workers with cognitive impairment or learning disability, allowing external support workers from specialist employment or disability services on site, introducing a workplace buddy or mentor system, or arranging general or specific disability awareness training for co-workers, supervisors and managers. JobAccess operates a national call service delivered by a team of frontline professionals who provide free, confidential and expert advice on workplace adjustments and modifications. We work with a national panel of assessors to conduct free workplace assessments for workplace modifications and support. Such modifications might be eligible for reimbursement through the Australian Government's Employment Assistance Fund, and I'll elaborate on that in the next slide. So the Employment Assistance Fund is available to people with disability who are about to start a job or who are currently working and could help to buy work-related modifications and services. These could include adjustments, special equipment for the workplace, modifications to work equipment, information and communication devices, Auslan interpreting, specialist services for employees with specific learning disabilities or mental health conditions, and disability, deafness and mental health awareness training. Our internal research shows that 90% of our modifications through the EAF cost less than $10,000 and 50% cost less than $1,000. So the application process for the EAF is a number of steps, and the first one is to submit an online application at jobaccess.gov.au. Anyone who needs assistance with that can call our information line, and we're more than happy to offer assistance. JobAccess will assess the application and let the organisation know the outcome. If the person meets the criteria, JobAccess will also advise if a workplace assessment might be required. If a workplace assessment isn't required, JobAccess may be able to move to approval of the requested equipment, and then the costs would be reimbursed by JobAccess. If a workplace assessment is needed, JobAccess will arrange a specialist assessor to come out to the workplace, and these days we're also saying or via video link, to identify any barriers that might exist and talk with the employer and the employee to find solutions to make the workplace more accessible and flexible. The organisation can then move forward to purchase the modifications, and JobAccess would reimburse the cost. Remember that we are here to help. The JobAccess advisor will manage the process and answer any inquiries that you have. And detailed guidelines on the Employment Assistance Fund is available on the JobAccess website. That also has a lot of other information on that website and is definitely worth looking at. So, an eligible applicant must be working at least 8 hours per week. If a person is self-employed, then the criteria is that they need to be working 20 hours per week and earning an hourly income equivalent to the national minimum wage. Have at least 13 weeks of employment, be an Australian citizen or permanent resident, and have an ongoing disability, and the criteria for that is 2 years duration. Or be a job seeker with a job plan. Again, our professional advisors are very happy to have a chat over the phone and look at the eligibility criteria and what would actually be needed to help meet that. The EAF also provides funding for job interviews. So a person who is deaf might require Auslan interpreting for an interview. And then we fund, it's called Auslan Level 2 interpreting for that. And the Auslan interpreter can attend the interview, and again, maybe these days, maybe it's more remote interpreting. We also fund awareness training, and that can be disability awareness training, deafness awareness training, or mental health awareness training. And the funding for that is $1,500 per year for each eligible employee to conduct training in the workplace. With regards to mental health awareness training, the objective is to equip organisations with skills to manage common mental health issues that might come up in the workplace. And the training seeks to increase awareness, reduce stigma, improve attitudes, as well as increase the confidence of employees and co-workers to assist somebody in seeking help. Research has shown that implementation of early diagnosis and intervention programs can result in a 5-fold return on investment as a result of increased employee productivity. I think that's a really interesting finding. JobAccess works closely with prominent mental health agencies such as Beyond Blue, Sane Australia and the Black Dog Institute to look at ways of promoting funding. Next is on the job support, which includes funding for specialist services provided by professionals with expertise in the area of mental health as well as learning disorders. Here too, the EAF can provide funding of up to $1,500 per year per eligible employee. And the specialist services can include professional counselling by a registered psychologist, where the counselling is to assist the person to be able to carry out their job duties. Most of the assistance is in response to issues around depression, anxiety, mood disorders, and anger management. It can also include coaching programs or mentoring in the workplace, where the program is related to overcoming a barrier in the workplace caused by the mental health or learning disorder. One-on-one support might also be delivered by the staff members treating psychologist where there is one involved. So let's take a look at what we do at JobAccess. JobAccess is the national hub for disability employment for people with disability, employers and service providers. It's a free service that exists to remove barriers to disability employment. Our range of services include advice service via phone and website, and JobAccess operates on a national call service delivered by a team of frontline professionals who provide free, confidential and expert advice. Coordinating workplace adjustments and modifications through the Employment Assistance Fund, which we've just covered in the previous slides. The National Disability Recruitment Coordinator, or NDRC, the employer engagement services of JobAccess, who work with larger employers to increase their disability confidence, and the Complaints Resolution and Referral Service, or CRRS, that aims to improve government-funded disability support services through a fair and impartial complaints resolution process. And the National Disability Abuse and Neglect Hotline, also called the Hotline, which is a vital reporting service available to anyone who suspects abuse or neglect of a person with disability. The recently launched Employer Toolkit is another practical resource for employers. It's designed to help employers build disability confidence and hire people with a disability. The toolkit covers a range of topics relating to disability employment, including creating inclusive policies, finding and interviewing job seekers with disability, and making adjustments in the workplace. It includes templates, videos, and case studies, and is available online through the JobAccess website, and that's jobaccess.gov.au. I encourage you to go online and have a look and see how it might assist you or your organisation. Over the years, Australia's Disability Employment Services, or DES, have supported tens of thousands of people with disability to join the workplace. The primary function of a DES provider is to ensure a good job fit. They're also there to ensure that the employee and employer receive the assistance necessary to address any disability-related issues. They also help remove any potential barriers that might get in the way of satisfactory work performance or hinder job retention. While not all people with disability require support, it's good and important for us to know that these services exist. JobAccess can help employers develop relationships with local providers if you're not sure where or how to start. This service is available to all employers, big or small. The JobAccess Vacancy Service can advertise employer vacancies free of charge to the network of disability employment service providers. We can also help employers to develop relationships with local providers if you're not sure where to start. Again, this service is available to all employers, big or small. So please consider the vacancies that you might have now or on the horizon and get in touch. So that's an overview of what JobAccess does provide, and it brings us to the end of today's presentation. Hopefully it's provided you with useful insights into workplace adjustments and practical supports that are available through JobAccess. And once again, I encourage you to visit our website or speak with one of our advisors if you require any assistance. And thank you to Quantum for inviting JobAccess to present today.
Thanks very much, Camille. That was great. Does anybody have any questions? If you do, if you could type them in the chat box, which you can click on the chat bubble or use Alt-H to get there and type a message to us. Just be aware it does go to everybody unless you shift tab back to everyone and choose just the hosts. So, yep. Okay, so we've had one question. Can funding for mental health awareness training be used by organisations to fund mental health first aid training?
it is something that we could have a look at. We don't specifically fund first aid, mental health first aid training, but it is something that we could have a look at if it was in relation to an employee that met the criteria.
Yep.
So can I just ask one? I know Trevor's put one out on the chat line, but I just thought I'd jump in quickly. Camille, could you just outline for everyone the time period that it takes? Because I think that's vitally important, and you know, most people are a little bit sceptical of government agencies, you know, saying they do things on certain timeframes, but you guys do it.
Yeah. We do. Just to say as well, we're not actually a government agency, so we deliver the program on behalf of the Australian government.
Sure.
Okay.
So once somebody puts an application on, JobAccess has 2 working days to get in contact with them. It would be very unusual for us to take 2 working days. You're probably more likely to find it would be something like 2 hours. So it would be within 2 days and generally within the same day. What happens then is what we will ask for information that will make sure that somebody meets the criteria, and sometimes that needs to be documentation. So sometimes we'll actually ask for written information. Once we have all of that in, we can look at making a decision depending on the circumstances. If a worksite assessment isn't required, then we might proceed to looking at quotes, and then the process can be fairly streamlined from there. If a worksite assessment is required, because perhaps somebody's not quite sure what they need, or we do need to send an assessor out to have a look at what the options might be, once we refer to an assessor, they've got 12 working days to do the assessment and then get the report back to JobAccess. We'll then contact all parties, and once we get the final reports through, we'd be making a decision from there. I would have to say the timeframes at the moment, I don't know. They could be slightly different, and in some cases actually quicker. Does that answer that question, Rob?
Yeah, yes, it does. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, we've got another question. Oh, Trevor, did you had some comments or questions?
Yeah. Look, I've just had a lot to do with this over the years, so I've just got couple of comments. Some you've covered, but I'm amazed at the number of people who simply don't know this exists.
Yes.
Certainly in the educational area, I've met so many people who are visiting teachers, who are support people for people with disabilities. And they're all going through the education system, and, you know, I'll say, you know, they're being trained up, and I'm going, well, if they get a job, there's always JobAccess, and they have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
A couple of the other comments, I can only apply once. These are people I've spoken to who are on the phone going, so they say, I can only apply once. You only fund, or they only fund one item, and I got it a couple of years ago. I have a job, so it doesn't apply. It costs too much and I can't afford it. I'm only part-time and I work for myself. Some of those you've answered, but as I understand it, almost none of them apply.
That's pretty much the case, yeah. So certainly when people are employed is what we're actually looking for, people who are in employment and ways of assisting them to be able to do their work. And there is so much equipment out there, and I'm sure Quantum are going to talk about that in a moment. There is so much equipment that can assist somebody in doing their day-to-day work. So that is very much what we're about. There is actually no limit on the amount of times that somebody can apply to JobAccess. There is a limit on building modifications, and that limit's $33,000, but that's the only actual limit that we've got. In terms of applying and not being able to apply again, the only thing I'd say is that somebody, you know, if we funded something 1 year and then the next year another version of it came out, we wouldn't necessarily be able to fund the latest version. But if a piece of equipment has reached the end of its lifespan, and you know, some people come back after 8 years, then certainly we can look at that again.
Fantastic.
Okay, thanks, Camille. There's a few other questions that have popped up here. One was in relation to, can a person access access equipment prior to getting a job so they can start straight away with the needed equipment, or has it got to be while you're in your
Yes.
job?
No, as soon as somebody has an offer of a job, that's certainly when we can say, right, let's have a look at what the role is, let's have a look at the equipment that's provided for the role, and then let's have a look at, is there any additional equipment that's going to, or modifications needed that are going to need to be put in place. And that can be before somebody starts, as long as they've got confirmation that the employment is starting. And sometimes people will actually, an employer will actually say, I confirm that this person will be working for us once the assessment's done and we determine what the adjustments actually needed are. And that's okay. We can generally work with that as well.
Yeah, great. And somebody's asked, can you give some examples of the sorts of things you can help with for someone who wants to be self-employed? I guess that would...
It very much depends on the role. So what JobAccess is able to provide is disability-specific equipment. So with people who are employed by others or people who are self-employed, it's up to the employer, and self-employed people basically are their own employer. It's up to the employer to provide equipment that's required for the role. So for example, for my role, I need a chair to sit on, I need a keyboard, a mouse and a computer. And everybody needs that, whether they have a disability or not. However, somebody with a vision disability may actually need Zoom text provided, or they may need a larger monitor, or they might need a CCTV so that they can have a look at paper documents that are required in the role. So any disability-specific equipment that wouldn't be needed by anybody else in the role is something that we can fund. And that's whether somebody's self-employed or employed by somebody else.
Okay, thanks. And okay, if somebody has asked if equipment is obtained so a person can do the job before JobAccess has been contacted, can it be reimbursed after assessing? They're assuming not, but just wanted to check.
No, very unfortunately, that's not something that we can do. So the approval needs to be given before purchase occurs. We're not able to retrospectively reimburse.
Okay. And so that's, can the government organisations such as hospitals and public health, etc., apply for JobAccess funding?
Yes. Yeah, we're not restricted to private or government. We certainly cover both. Okay.
And Travis, who owns the equipment? Is there any cost to the individual?
Good question. The equipment is generally owned by the individual, so that if they did change job roles, they would take the equipment with them. Sometimes equipment needs to be built into the workplace, and I'm thinking about a ramp or perhaps a rail that actually is put onto the building. In that case, the employer would own the equipment, but generally it's the individual that owns the equipment, certainly for anything portable, and there is no cost to the individual.
Okay. Yeah, I've just there's a lady Jamie who's an assessor that would like to make a comment. I just need to unmute them. Or are you able to unmute yourself, Jamie?
Yeah, I have. Hey Camille, how you going?
Good, Jamie, how are you?
I'm good. I just wanted to point out that even though as an assessor we get a referral that will point us in the direction of one specific equipment item, the majority of us will actually explore everything. So if there is anything else that we can think of that might help someone in the workplace, we will also consider that as part of our assessment. So rather than it coming to us with just one specific piece of equipment that someone thinks might help, we try and be a bit more holistic about what we're looking at and consider all the disability specific barriers that we could overcome through the use of equipment or modification.
Yes.
Thanks. Yep. Okay. So yeah, several other people who obviously do assessing have done the same. May agreed with you there. And we have had a comment as well of somebody who does work for the West Australian state government has said that their particular department has been very aware of JobAccess and the programs. So if anyone out there is applying for state government, don't be afraid to discuss that, the workplace modifications with them. So Yes, that's part of it
Fantastic.
as well.
Mhm.
So that's good to hear. Okay, so we might leave it there. If anyone thinks of any other questions afterwards, by all means, email us, and we will send like an email around with all the different points. So we
And
might.
if somebody would like to discuss their particular circumstances, of course, they can give us a call or send an email through, and we will definitely contact them and discuss that.
Oh yes, certainly, and we'll put those contact details there, and I think you had them on your slide too. So yeah, we can let people know all that.
Great.
If they don't already. So thank you so much, Camille. That was really
Thank you.
informative. So that's great. Okay, so I've got next up we've got talk to us about his experiences in working remotely as someone who is blind. So and he works for Vision Australia. So welcome, Greg.
Okay, I think I've unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
Yes, you have.
Oh,
yes,
fantastic.
Thank you, Greg.
I might just start off by saying, just to follow on from that, I am somebody who is blind, totally blind. I lost my sight over many years, but certainly when I was going through a transition 20 years ago, I did use this service, the JobAccess service, and it certainly made it very easy to stay in employment. I was working for the University of WA at that stage, so it's a very painless process once you get into it, and it's a fantastic service that I hope will continue for many years to come. Yeah, so I'm currently working at Vision Australia. I'm an access technology specialist. I used to do face-to-face meetings until the environment had changed. I do a bit less of that at the moment. I am also on a National AT Access Technology Help Desk for Vision Australia. There is 4 of us on that, providing services around Australia, and that is where people can ring up with their access technology issues, problems, looking for advice on any of the access technology that's out there. That might be even mainstream technology like your Google Homes and your Alexas and those sort of things, that probably a more universal design rather than access technology, but they certainly have made people's lives a lot easier to live. I myself, as I said, I'm totally blind. I've got no usable vision. I primarily use JAWS to access my workspace. I work from home on a soft phone type setup, use Zoom quite a lot, and also in recent times Microsoft Teams. And Microsoft over the past few years have put some great efforts into accessibility, and the Microsoft Teams app or program, which is similar to this Zoom one, allows people to break up into teams in a particular workplace to be able to send chat messages, video call, audio call, and those sort of things, so they can interact with each other. Sometimes a little bit annoying because I've got emails coming in making noises, MS Teams coming in making different noises, text messages going off from my iPhone. It's a very noisy environment sometimes, and I'm here by myself. So the demands from these pieces of equipment sometimes can be a little overwhelming. So with JAWS, what I can also do too, for those people or people who are vision impaired that are using JAWS, I'm able to remotely get into their JAWS if they're people that maybe just have not got that little bit of confidence that they might need to be able to play around with settings, installing programs, and that sort of thing. Able to remotely from here in WA to remote into somebody in New South Wales or Victoria or wherever, could be anywhere in the world really, access their computer and either show them some keystrokes or do a little bit of training or adjust up some settings for them. So that is a great feature. I use that quite a bit. My other colleagues who have got low vision use programs like Team Talk, where you can again do the same sort of thing where they get a visual representation of the screen that they're looking at. They're able to adjust different programs on the other end on the client side to be able to help them over there. So they're two great programs to be able to remotely help people. With that, as I said, you've got the help desk as well. Quantum also has its own software support desk. Microsoft has a very good disability access technology help desk. And Google also has one. So there's a lot of great resources out there that people can access if they're working to get the support that they need. I also use other screen readers. As I said, JAWS is my primary screen reader that I use, just because I need to be able to help clients that are using other screen readers. Also familiar with Narrator and NVDA for people that are using those. So I need to be across those, all the sorts of different screen readers. The magnification stuff as well, although I don't use it myself, I need to be aware of what is available with those sort of products like Fusion, which merges basically JAWS with Zoom Text, which is a very good product. Also, along Braille displays, I sometimes use. I use Braille displays myself, but there's a lot of clients out there, especially those clients who are deafblind, needing support with using Braille displays that can connect to your iPhone or your Android device to some extent. Android support's not as good as the iPhone, but it still is there. So for those people who need to be able to access information in an alternative way, and that is through Braille, that's certainly available, and it's amazing how much those types of displays have come down in price and become more affordable for people to be able to access. There's a few sub $1,000 Braille displays out there at the moment, some just over $1,000. It wasn't that long ago that these things cost multi-thousands of dollars and were out of the reach of most people. So it's good to see that that sort of equipment is certainly reduced in value, so people can access it. And to see somebody for the first time being able to access, say, an iPhone through a Braille display, who never could access, if they were deafblind, couldn't access information in an easy way, or needed assistance to be able to access communication, or a lot of support, giving them their independence back and be able to access their their phones and move on to the workplace, to be able to access everything they need in the workplace. As I said, I work from home. I also run my own small business in whatever spare time I do get, creating and designing, maintaining websites. I use WordPress, which is very accessible with a screen reader. It even has its own editing functions for people who are blind, non-visual editing, they call it. So able to, there's a few questions coming in, but I hit the control key to stop those, so I didn't quite hear the question, but we'll grab those soon. So the designing websites, maintaining them is something that I really like to do, and it also gives me a perspective on giving back feedback to for those people who are using assistive technology, adaptive technology. I'm sure come across all sorts of websites that they'd love to be able to access, but for whatever reasons they haven't been designed properly, and it makes it very difficult for them not only to do their job, but to book flights, whatever it might be, having designed websites, we can give advice on how to make these things accessible. It's not a hard thing to do. It just needs to be done at the design stage to make them usable, using various standards that are now out there, web accessibility standards. If people follow those, in the majority of cases, we're getting more and more access to websites. Again, it wasn't that long ago that we had a lot of websites that were just not accessible. That is improving. More and more websites are taking on board the accessibility of websites, and the fact that there are people out there who are blind or have low vision that have got money to spend, and if they make their websites accessible, there's a possibility they might make a bit more money. There's a huge market of people around the world who are blind or have low vision.
Okay.
Might grab some of those questions, Rebecca, maybe.
Yeah, so there's one here. Do you have to be a Vision Australia client to contact the Assistive Technology Help Desk at Vision Australia?
You do. But you can ring up and become a member right there on the phone, and then you can get access to the service. That's just so that we can build an account, create case notes, so that there's a trail basically. So if somebody rings up, client rings up, say, and I grab that client, I'm able to go to their case note and see what sort of interaction they've had with the organisation and what's been tried in the past. So we're not going over the same old thing. So that's mainly the reason. So you can ring up, say you want to become a member, join up right then and there, and then you can get access to the service.
Yep. Oh, that's good. So any other questions? I think. Okay, we might move on, just looking at the time. So thank you very much for that, Greg. It's really good to get an insight into what you do and how you go about it. So next up we have Lauren Farrell, who's from Indigo, which people might know it was formerly Independent Living Centre WA. So they're an assistive technology information centre that works with different suppliers and people to trial different options just in one space. So Lauren, I'll hand over to you, and you can tell us about what you're in.
All right, I think that I should be sharing my screen now, and I should have unmuted myself.
Yes.
Yep. Okay,
that's
great.
Lovely.
Hello. All right. Thank you everybody, and thank you Quantum for having us and inviting us. It's been really interesting listening into Camille and Greg's discussions so far. And now I'm going to cover a bit of Indigo, formerly known as the Independent Living Centre. And I was assuming that my PowerPoint would go, but there it is. So yes, we have changed our name, but we have not changed our services. So we still do the information and advice appointments. We still have professional assistive technology supports, and we still do trials of assistive technology. So I suppose what the main difference is that when you call us or send us an email, the logos will say Indigo, not Independent Living Centre. Why we thought that Indigo could present at this workplace. Generally speaking, we don't directly do workplace supports, but we do see a lot of people coming in to trial different types of equipment to access their workplaces or to use to further their roles in the workplace. So we provide that professional experience and go through all the different types of equipment that they might have or inquiries. We also get a lot of schools and businesses contacting us saying that they have someone with a disability who they want to support, or they have if it's a school calling, sometimes it's also a student, and a student and an individual who is employed are quite similar in the sense that when you start a new role or you're learning something new. So we have a lot of experience in helping to put those kind of things in place and trialing things, knowing that it might be new for that person. Something to note is that we don't actually sell any of the assistive technology that we trial with people. We get it from a range of different suppliers. So we have some Quantum products with us on the display floor, and we have other suppliers as well. And we try and go through and feature match with them. And that's why our appointments are with the health professional to help with that feature matching. So that, and we have it at one location, so you don't have to go to lots of different places. But for some of the more specialized products, especially the software, then we might refer you on to Visibility, for example, or Vision Australia, or directly to a supplier such as Quantum. If you already know what you want to try and you're wanting more in-depth support, then it's important that we can connect you in with the right resources. Just last dot point down the bottom of my slide there, it says we are funded by CHSP, which is the Community Home Support Plans, and DSC, Disability Services Commission, or the Department of Communities. So if an individual gets funding under that, we are able to waive the cost of the appointment with us. But if someone is coming in and they aren't accessing those, so say they might be NDIS, or you're coming in just as you've not previously accessed any funding before, then there would be a fee associated with that. But we could discuss that later. These are all the services that Indigo does. They're the same as what the ILC did. And I've just highlighted and bolded out the assistive technology services, because that's the main one where you would come in and try the assistive technology with. That's the one where you have an OT or a speech pathologist, and we'll go through the different types of equipment with you. The technology and communication services below that, that is where we kind of have a few of the OTs and speeches which have specialised by choice or interest, or there was a vacancy, so we pushed them into it, to do more computer access related inquiries and smart home technologies communication. So that could also be something looked into too. I have bolded @chat. Now this is a great support network. It's all for developed by people with disabilities for people with disabilities, and @chat stands for Assistive Technology Chat, and they are a great peer mentoring program and support group. I can't recommend them enough in terms of getting real life experiences and support for assistive technology and related. The equipment hire, we do have a hire department. So some of our equipment, especially the voice control or computer access, we do have in our hire department for people to try and see how it might work in their workplace as well. Technology is everything. It doesn't have to be high tech. It can be low tech. It could be the diary that or your calendar that you write in to make sure you get to your job interview or to your meetings on time. I just like having that side in there just to keep it could be anything. Yeah. And this is just a picture representation of that as well. So there's got a few different pictures on there of long-handled reaches. Got KitchenAids in there as well, because when you're at work, you might need to make yourself lunch in their kitchen, and that can sometimes be we thought about everything in terms of what I need to do my job, but how am I meant to complete some of my daily tasks in that workplace as well. So I left those ones in there. AT for the workplace. So when someone might come in and they say, oh, I'm starting a new job, I'd like to have an appointment with your team to go through some of the different things that I might need. And just get a bit of an idea. They might not have contacted JobAccess yet, or they might be coming in with their JobAccess support to trial a couple of different specific options. So we look about the environment. So that might be the actual physical building, Do they want some ideas on tapware, door handles, lighting, clearance ways? We're not access consultants, but in terms of the different fittings and things like that, we can discuss. Communication, that includes not only written, how are we going to work out the different forms that might be there, signing access, but also phones and alerting systems. How do we know that the smoke alarm is going off if you couldn't hear it? How would you know that the alarm light is on or off for the code to access the building if you couldn't see it? Different types of those things. Computer access. And I think that's a great component where that Vision Australia assistive technology and visibility, they can really help with specific programs and support. And we have a lot of the off-the-shelf and general products that people use, such as Dragon and voice control for Mac. So I just put a few more pictures in here just as visual representations for buildings. So the taps in the kitchen. How are you going to make a cup of coffee? That's quite important. Can you access the building with a ramp? Do we need to discuss and link you in, recommend you back to JobAccess to discuss with your employers? Are there bathrooms? Is there clear lighting? That kind of thing. Environmental controls. So these can be quite helpful, and you can put them into an office as well. So this could be something where you might have a sensor light that comes on when you go into the store cupboard to get some the reprographics room or anything like that. Sensors on the doors, auto closing systems, different kinds of things like that. It's not just about TVs and remotes and getting the office radio to play music or not. There's lots of different areas. So think outside the box for that one. Telephones, how are you going to contact your person if they're doing if they're off-site, and making sure that they came back, as well as different types of accessibility options. So we have quite a range of these on display, and we can help feature match, and then you can actually try the different phones and alerting systems as well. And we do also have some of them in our hire department, so you can try it and take it and implement that before you commit to the purchase or installation. Computers and accessories. Now, this is where I am sure Rob is going to be discussing, so I'm not going to go too much, other than there are lots of different apps to make a tablet even more accessible. And there are small portable versions for reading text, different keyboards, mice, everything like that. We do have a lot of that. So even if you think that, oh, I've tried lots of different options before, or especially if you have tried voice recognition software previously, if you haven't tried it in the last 2 years, I would give it another go, or just consider giving it another go, because it has come a long, long way in the past 5 years. Dragon, naturally speaking, we're up to version 15 now, and it is so much better than any of the earlier versions. I've recently worked on a project where we tried trialing it with children, school-aged kids, primary-aged kids, and high school, and I was quite surprised at how well it responded to their voices. And now with the latest with iOS 13, you have voice control, and iPad has its own iOS. You can do a lot of more in terms of commands on your iPad as well. It's not just the big Mac systems that can do that now, which is incredibly exciting, I think. And a fun little fact, I don't know if you did know this already, but Apple worked with Nuance, who is the software manufacturer that does Dragon Naturally Speaking, to get their commands. So they actually worked on the project together. So that's why you can no longer purchase Dragon for Mac. It doesn't exist anymore because they helped, Apple bought some of that licensing from them. But that's why all the commands are very similar. So if you're switching between the systems, Windows to Mac or vice versa, you're using voice control, at least the majority of the commands will be the same. So quite helpful. And this is my last little slide. I am quite aware of the time, so I may have zoomed a bit, but please ask and send us through any questions. Just like we're always surprised that people haven't heard of JobAccess and some of the support options available through Vision Australia and some of the other support agencies, I'm always surprised that people don't know about the National Equipment Database. This website, we do our very best to keep it updated with equipment that is available. So any type of assistive technology available in Australia, we put the product details, we change it so it's unbiased information on there. So we take out some of the sales speak and put in all the supplier details, specifications, so you can contact them directly. It's just quite helpful. So you can, there's a broken down into tabs of computer access, aids for vision and hearing, different driving control modifications, lots of different sections. So it also has our phone number on there. And there we go. I'll leave you on our picture of our new website that launched earlier in the month, which seems like so long ago now.
Oh, thank you so much, Lauren. That's great. And yeah, do type in questions if you like, but we will flick over to Rob so that we can have a look at the technology that we have here at Quantum that might be useful to you. So right, thanks. That's great, Lauren.
Thank you. I'm going to mute myself again now. So here we go.
Right, thanks, Lauren. Alrighty. So look, I'm sure everybody's pretty well aware of the basic sort of tech that's available to help people that are vision impaired. Trevor's going to come on in a couple of minutes and talk to you about some of the products that we've got for people who are have no functional vision, so basically people who are blind. But I just wanted to go through a couple of the products that we've got that are perhaps new that you've not seen before, and give you just a very quick rundown on those. Again, if you do want to have a more detailed little session, just let us know. Contact info at Quantum email address, and we'll do that for you. Now, I'm sure you're all well aware that what an electronic magnifier, what people call a video magnifier or CCTV does. So here's one that's got a camera sitting above the screen, and it's looking down at the magazine here, and got a little control pad. You can change the magnification, and you can also, if you wanted to, you can also change the foreground and background colours to make it easier to see. The other thing you can do with this is to point the camera across the room, and when you do point it across the room, again, you can zoom in, and I can zoom in on where I'm supposed to be going for my holidays in July, but I won't be because all travel has been cut down, but it's the Great Victoria Desert on a map on the other side of the room. So a device like this is handy for people that need to do handy tasks in front of the screen. They might need to fill out a lot of forms or something like that, may even do some handy crafts of sorts. But it's just a nice way of being able to do that, as well as see across the room if they do need to. Moving along to things that are more portable. Get a little device like this, which is a 6-inch magnifier. Put that down towards the page. And what we can do with this one is either pinch it, you can tap the screen, and you've also got some buttons on the screen, and you just slide it over the page. Now, I'm not doing this particularly well, but I'm just doing it for the demonstration purposes. So this is a 6-inch device. There's another one, not quite as portable, of course, but this is a 10-inch one, and it sort of looks the same. again, you just put the magnifier on top of the material that you wanted to read. You can then, if you wanted to, pull out a camera which comes out to the side of the device. And what you can do here is actually use it to fill out a form. Again, you can pinch and magnify on the screen. Now, the other thing this device can do, and also the previous one, can actually take a picture of the page and read things out to you. So you've got the ability with something like this to use it as a traditional magnifier. You can have a page read out to you, but more importantly, you can carry it around with you. And you know, it's a 10-inch screen, so a bit bigger than an iPad, probably about twice, maybe 3 times the thickness of an iPad, but does quite a bit more. Moving on to, again, something that's, where did I hide it amongst all this? Things that, those are devices that just do what they do on the device. Sometimes you want to have a little bit more interaction with things. You want to be able to save documents, you want to bring documents, you don't want to carry around too much. So we've got a device here which folds up. This one's rather handy little thing. It's got a camera off to the side, and what we can do with this is literally just a Surface Pro that's in a particular stand, and we can use it to magnify print. And again, we can either use gestures or the buttons on the screen, and we can see whatever there is there. Now, this is just utilising this camera that's off to the side. And again, this camera, you can point it and see things around the room. The other thing you can do with this one is save what you're doing. Now, you can save it as a video. You can take a picture of that page. But if you wanted to, you can also just get it to take a picture of the page and then read it out to you.
Sniping food from people in South Africa's Cape Peninsula in the 1950s. They've been getting bolder, obviously.
So the big advantage of this is it is a Surface Pro, and what that means is you can do everything that you want to on Windows. You know, be it your email, your Googles, your applications for work, etc. And but you've still got the same device to do your magnification. And like any application, if you want to, you can also resize it. You can minimize it and bring it back later on after you've done whatever you've been doing. So something like that is it's not a new concept by any means, but certainly in a Windows environment, it works really well. Things Jamie mentioned before, large print keyboards. You know, they're handy for people who really do need to see the keys, but we always do encourage teaching people touch typing as much as possible. And the other sort of thing we've got too, we can do the text-to-speech thing with this device here, the MagnaLink tab, also those 2 little devices that we talked about before. But if you just want someone that needs reading on it on their own, they don't need anything else particularly. Maybe a device like this one, which is called the Clear Reader. All it is a device which will take a picture of the page and read it out to you. So just putting the paper in front of the device there, pressing the button, light comes on, it'll take a photo. It's just now analysing this page, and it'll start reading out in a moment.
Students with disability are entitled to these rights on the same basis as other students. The concept of
just a little note about this device called the Clear Reader. That's an Australian accent. There are about 19 different languages built into this device. But there is also the same device, but it has got the Asian languages in there as well. So it's got Korean, Vietnamese, Japanese, Cantonese and Mandarin built into it. And both of the versions of the device, if you like, also have the ability to do automatic language detection. So if you do have people that are multilingual, the device itself will pick up that it's in French or Dutch or Croatian, and it will read out that passage in that voice. So that's just a pretty concise insight, I guess, into the low vision world. Are there any questions just quickly?
I think you mentioned some of the names of things, Rob. I did put in the chat, but the one with the distance camera you were showing was the MagnaLink Tab,
Yep.
the Surface Pro one.
That's it.
And we had the Compact 10 Speech. Is that right?
Yeah, so the Compact 10, and so this is the Compact 10, and it's made by Optelec in the Netherlands. So that's a 10-inch, and also the Compact 6, the 6-inch, strangely. Both of them are available either as magnifiers only or magnifier with OCR, so with speech. So either or with those. The one I showed you first of all, the one at the back here, larger standalone desktop unit, is called the Digimax. That's the one with the, again, that distance camera. I think most people that know us probably know the Clearview range pretty well. There's a Clearview Speech, standard Clearview, high definition, and then just a very base model Clearview also.
Yep. We've got a couple of other questions. Can the MagnaLink be used as a Surface Pro as well, i.e. access to the internet, Facebook, various apps? Yes, it can.
Yeah, absolutely, Jamie. The what I've got here on the screen is just your normal Windows stuff. So should put my glasses back on, but if you had Word or whatever, just do your Word stuff there. And then you can just flick back to the application at any stage.
Yeah, and you can connect a Bluetooth keyboard.
Yep, connect your
USB
Bluetooth
if you want
keyboard
to,
and mouse to it, and away you go. Still giving access to the internet, and that's quite an important thing, because some of the other similar devices don't have that level of flexibility.
And does the Compact 10 cover with an additional reading stand? I guess because you've got the flick out camera, yeah,
it doesn't actually need the reading stand. It's got the two cameras, so I'll just hold it up towards the screen here, and the camera that I'm opening up at the moment at the end of this arm gives you enough field of view, and that's why they've used two cameras here, so that you can capture a full A4 page on the side if you wish. So that works really quite well. The Compact 6 can't do the full A4 page, except if you've got this little portable reading stand, and this folds down. Maybe a bit over a kilo or something, but the advantage of this is that you can, there it is, you can close it up, the Compact 6 off its stand. You can plug it in, it will charge there, and it just happens to hold the Compact 6 in the right position so that when you're operating it, it can do the full A4 sheet as well. And there's also a nice external speaker here, which gives really good quality sound. So, something like this could be useful in the workplace where you need a lot of mobility, but when you're back at the desk, you want to operate, the text-to-speech capabilities of it.
Thanks, Rob. Great.
All right, so look, I'll leave it at that. Please send those questions through to the info email address, and we'll get back to you individually.
And was Trevor going to?
Sure.
So I'll throw over to Trevor now. Thank you.
No worries. Just a quick one. We've just got some Braille devices here. Just a matter of interest, I was talking to Statewide, who are the education people here in Vic, who provide all the Braille production. They've said they've never, there's more people, more students today learning Braille than ever. They all have local Braille production, which is pretty good. The other interesting thing is that they're doing, like when it comes to maths, physics, chemistry, those sorts of subjects, they are doing more complex subjects and higher level subjects than ever before. So there's quite a growth in this area, and it's been supported a lot by the range of technology that's there. The ability to produce tactile diagrams is increased. There's a tactile printer now, and we've also had a different method, which is with our PF, again, to make tactile diagrams. As an example of that in the workplace, I once supported a student or visited this person who had been working for NBN, and they worked in the, basically it was traffic management for NBN, how they channel data around Australia. And she was working in this area, and a lot of her work was, or decisions were based around tactile diagrams. And they, so there's a growth in this. It's much easier to produce them now, and they're much higher quality. The sorts of things that's happened is this gadget here is called an L-Braille. It's a Windows PC in a box, basically. It's just a fully functioning laptop, has HDMI out. You could plug in a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse. So if you had a techo needing to connect this, install something, they wouldn't actually know it was anything else but a standard PC. If I plug in now our Braille display, basically this is a working Windows 10 PC, Wi-Fi. Actually takes a SIM card if you want to contact or link into directly into the internet. It's i5, 8 gig of RAM. It's quite a good, reasonable, functioning PC. And that can be used either with keyboards or as it is here with a Braille display and just using the Braille keys as input. There are equivalent keystrokes basically to run it as a PC and to emulate the Windows commands and so on. There's a slightly smaller version of that here, which is again very common in the workplace to connect to PCs, iPhones, iPads, that whole raft of equipment. And one thing, this is relatively new, this is called a Canute 360, and this device is 9 lines of 40 characters wide Braille. So it's a 360 character Braille display. Fundamentally at the moment, it's still being developed, but fundamentally at the moment, it's a book reader. So again, I could do my multi-line maths, physics, chemistry. I could email the files to this device and I can display the Braille over 9 lines. This is a new type of device and I've never really seen a multi-line device developed to this stage and we're just evaluating that at the moment. The only other thing is I think everybody knows about JAWS and Zoom Text as the screen reader and a magnifier come speech. There's one in the middle now, which is called Fusion, which is both of those basically put together. And basically Fusion, I think, is one that is often overlooked. And I think when it comes to JobAccess and you are looking at efficiencies and competitiveness, I think something like a Fusion, so a person could, if they had vision, for example, could use the large print and contrast attributes of something like a Fusion, but also be very competitive and quick using the keystroke commands of JAWS. So I think there's a huge range of technology out there at the moment. And basically the message here is don't hesitate to call if you have questions or want to evaluate things. We often have licenses, 45-day licenses we can put out to test these situations in a job situation, whether the software works, whether there's scripting needed to be written or customizations need to be made. But yeah, I think that's about all the time I'll allow. So please don't hesitate to call us if you have any questions. The multi-line braille device is called a Canute 360, C-A-N-U-T-E.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Trevor. And we are looking, it's not scheduled yet, but we may well be doing a separate webinar just on the Canute as well. So, or if people want to have a, you know, we can do that individually. And as we said in some of the others, if you want specific help or to look at particular devices, then do just contact us. And I will just share our contact information. So thank you everybody who's presented, and thank you to all of you for attending. We will get the recording and information around to everybody. Yes, the best way to contact us is 1300 883 853 or info@quantumrlv.com.au, or a lot of information is also on our website. So that's quantumrlv.com.au, and we have got another session on vision assistance for education in pretty shortly. So another 10 minutes. So
8 minutes.
I'll leave it at that. So thanks everybody. I'll wrap this one up. So.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks.